Hello, everyone. Sam and Fee, and we're back for another midweek musings. How have you been, Fee?
Good, thank you. We've actually had some nice weather, haven't we?
It has been
It's been
lovely.
lovely. So we've been doing loads of gardening and stuff, which has been lovely. Yeah, it's needed doing for so long, and then we're just like, right, let's go for it. So the whole front garden's transformed. I'm
Yeah,
just
I've seen the
waiting for
pictures. It
the
looks
yeah, I'm
great.
just waiting for the grass seeds to come up. It's like every day. Come on, come on. But yeah, back garden now. Um, so yeah, it's just nice, isn't it? Being out in the sun with your hands in the soil, birds singing,
Yeah.
sun shining. So it's been nice. Yes, thank you. How about you?
Up and down, but on the upside, there are now some ups. So, can't
Good.
complain.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, just
Um,
plodding along,
yeah.
going, keep going, and enjoy the ups when they appear and get through the downs as best as possible, which I suppose is what
Always.
we're doing really at the minute, isn't it?
Exactly. Yes. Well, that sort of segues neatly, I think, into what we were chatting about just before. We always have a natter and a catch up. And you were telling me about an interesting conversation you had recently.
Yeah. So I don't want to sort of name and give too much sort of identifying details, but there's someone very close to me who a couple of years ago we had a very significant falling out to the point where it was we he would no longer wanted to be a part of my life at all, full stop. It was very difficult. Um, for about 6 months there was sort of no contact whatsoever, and then because it's close family, we have sort of reconciled and are trying to sort of
And
rebuild a
but this
relationship.
was because of your views on,
Yes,
yeah,
this was
that's
because
why you
of
fell out.
standing up against. Yes, that's an important point. Sometimes I forget that all these people out here, they don't know my life story like you
It's
do. uh, but yeah, it was a difficult time, and I sort of made the decision I wasn't going to allow everything that was going on sort of destroy familiar relationships and take any more from my life than it already did. But yeah, so I mean, we do still talk about stuff, and it's a sort of lightly treading conversation. Um, and we had, yeah, a really, really good conversation last week, where we discussed lots of various things that are going on, um, to do with politics and things like that. And I think to cut the story short, because I do have a tendency to just um, the thing that sort of really came through for me was that while, and I do think this is actually the case for a lot of people who, would not be where we are right now in terms of being completely aware and open to all the stuff that's going on in the world, was um, that whilst people can acknowledge that, within our political system, power and money are influencing and corrupting politicians, that there are organizations and companies out there with a lot of money who are lobbying parliament to implement certain things, to move in certain directions and all this kind of stuff. There is this acknowledgement that people are able to be corrupted, that there are many, many reasons why people make the decisions that they do, and that we are influenced by many factors. So on this sort of low level, he's able to concede that there is a lot of corruption and influence by outside forces on certain things that are going on. But yet, when you take that sort of above and beyond, for example, the political system, and take it to the point where obviously we know it is, where there is this, group of people who have got an unimaginable level of power and control over, pretty much everything.
Mm.
That actually there's this break where that logic that they start off with and this, acknowledgement of all this stuff, they can't take it beyond
Yeah.
that there's this block, this mental block, that it can't possibly be that big. It can't possibly have, all of these tentacles spread out all over the place. And that actually they can't allow themselves to go there because actually they don't want to live in a world where that is the case.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest thing I took from that conversation, that actually, as much as people do have a sense of logic and an ability to see what's going on a small level, when you take it to this massive level, that is what stops them. They don't want to believe it.
Yeah.
And I think for me, the really important takeaway point is that actually we do have to accept on some level that not everybody is going to be able to go there. And there is this case of allowing people to take this journey in their own time, because as I say, a couple of years ago, there was no discourse, no acceptance whatsoever between me and this person. There was no common ground. There was not even this kind of small shift or acknowledgement that this was going on. So in the last couple of years, there's been this shift, and it's sort of toddling along. And I
Baby
think it is very
steps.
much the same for everybody else. We kind of just have to keep planting those seeds and allowing people to. We can't expect this shift overnight, this revelation and, of accepting what
But
they're saying.
what stood out as well is that you mentioned that, he didn't stop and ask how you cope. Like, he clearly doesn't want to go, he doesn't want to live in a world where that's possible, where that's happening. And so you've got that block, like, this far but no further, because the implications are too massive. I can't handle it. But yeah, there wasn't the question, which would be like a great, that would be, the next step. So how do you manage to carry on going and live life and not just be this curled up ball in the corner rocking? How? And so that was
Yes,
kind of what we were gonna explore a bit,
yes,
really, isn't it? It's
yeah.
interesting, like that difference. So you've got us who know and those who have an inkling but don't want to know. How is it that we're able to carry on, without it just being this flat denial? Because we're not, obviously we're not in denial. We're in full awareness as much as is possible, and yet we're still here. um so what's
I
how is
think
it?
I would imagine that everybody who is now fully aware of what's going on has been in that fetal position, rocking in the corner, going, "No,
More than
no, this
once.
can't be." When the world feels like it's imploding, and there is this sense of, oh my god, if this is true, if this is really what's going on, if the world is really controlled by all of these, various things, they have all this money, this power, this control, how on earth am I supposed to, envision some sort of change, or sort of, not just resign myself to the idea, well, no,
We're fucked.
it,
Yeah.
we're fucked. Just and it is, I think we have all been there, and it is, I think everybody has their own sort of coping mechanisms as to how we sort of manage that way through that, but it is something we all have to go through, this absolute just fish out of water, this overwhelming, there aren't actually words to describe it, are there?
No.
When the rug is pulled from underneath you and you come to this conclusion, and
Oh,
I do think it's something that we have to go through.
yeah.
Um,
I mean, I
but
think some of us have been a bit more, I won't say fortunate, but for me, my fetal sort of moment, like the major one, was years ago. It wasn't in the midst of the shit show where, oh my God, that's the waking up point. I mean, don't get me wrong, I had my moment in 2020, I had the absolute fear of, oh my God, it's here. You know, I'd
Yeah.
known, I'd gone through the fucking hell, nothing is what I thought it was. This is what's happening, and you kind of knew it was coming, but we were still going along, you know, and I was traveling, I was doing all these things, and you're sort of living your life, and it's kind of on the back, but there's always that interest. I was always down the bloody rabbit hole, but it wasn't like imminent danger.
Yeah.
um so I'd kind of had that moment, and then you sort of, you continue growing along, don't you, and learning more and as you go. And then of course, bang, it's like, oh, we're full throttle now. This is go, go, go. And so yeah, I had my moment of, fuck, it's here, it's here. Oh my God, you know, paralyzed. I mean, genuine weeks and weeks and weeks of palpitations, of that almost being out of my body, with, you know, when you're in that state, it's just disbelief. But then, you know, obviously sort of coming back down to earth and grounding a bit, and because I had all that knowledge from years ago, it wasn't new, it's just the shock of it being here.
Yeah.
But for people that have had absolutely no idea.
I I suspect, I mean, I might be wrong, but I suspect that the vast majority of people who have come to that kind of awakening and realization over the past 3 years, which, you know, I am one of them. It was, I never really went down rabbit holes
Mm,
or looked too much into anything until 2020 hit. But I think for me, and I think for a lot of people, we are the people that
you've
always kind of had this
yes,
questioning outlook of,
that's a
hang on,
different,
something doesn't feel quite
yeah,
right.
you were
And
right for it.
almost,
You were
I think
right
so.
for it. What we're talking about is those who know,
Yeah.
like, to be in that absolute confrontational, you know, for people like you that might have, you know, things
I mean,
aren't
I went
quite,
down the 9/11 rabbit hole, if you, you know,
so many
and,
people
you know,
did. Yeah,
various ones like that, which gives you this kind of sense that,
preparation. You've got the
yeah,
prep there. But for
yeah.
people that are suddenly being, like you say, we have to accept that not everybody, they're not able to, you know, they're like this. They've been living their life, and I think a lot of it is the people that really, really refuse to go there. And this isn't, I'm not saying this in a, you know, detrimental, you know, it's not, but there, I think they're maybe not as spiritually aware or
Quite
interested
possibly.
even. I don't think we can even say spiritually aware. It's loaded, isn't it, all these terms, but you know,
It
that the
is.
inner life and the questioning, they're very, you know, 9 to 5, more, you know, that kind of conformist life, and very focused on the material and the sensory sort of right here, right now, but in a very kind of, yeah, it's that sensory pleasures, and not really looking outside of that kind of prescribed box that this is life, this is living, this is how you do things. um and so for something like this to come along, to absolutely turn everything on its head, everything, you know, there's a kind of, there's a security, isn't there, in being in the little box. This is what everyone's doing. We just sort of don't question, don't think about we're all going to die, you know, the things that we've been torturing ourselves with.
Yes,
We were
quite.
like, what's it all about? What does it mean? Why am I here? I don't say that they've never asked those questions, but they don't take them any further. And I think you've got a fundamental difference in
Yeah.
kind of worldview, and it is a level of awareness, it's a level of consciousness that you don't get to dictate. for whatever reason,
Yeah.
we've come in this lifetime with this almost unquenchable thirst for answers. We've always been asking, driving our parents and teachers nuts since we were little. But why? Why? Why?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we've not, many of us have tended to sort of go down a bit of a different path to a lot of our contemporaries, and we've sort of, yeah, followed the road less traveled, let's say, in whatever sense, and I think that's a huge part of it, that you can't force people into
No.
awareness or that ability to, yeah, accept the kind of unacceptable, really, isn't it? That's what we've had to do. It's that when I talk a lot about radical acceptance, it's not accepting, oh, that's all right, that's okay, we're in a genocide, it's fine. No, it's accept, and this is the crux of it, actually, thinking about it. It's accepting that that is where we are, that's what's happened, this is what's happening, now what? Now what? It's not this stagnant, oh, stalemate, game over. But when you're not willing to accept the unacceptable on that level, in that sense, you're not going to go anywhere. It's just no.
No. Do you know what? I actually watched The Matrix again recently.
It's so
And
cool to watch once you've really,
I know,
really
right? Um, and
scary.
the line in it is, I can show you the door, but only you can step through it. And I
Yeah,
think, that really is very much where we're at within humanity,
yeah,
is that, we can plant all these seeds, and we can, give all this information, but we can't force anyone to
no,
accept and sort of go into this, place of awareness until they are ready. And I think, we all know what a massive deal it is to really accept, the reality of the world we're living in. And
mm,
I think there needs to be, a discussion about our approach when we're talking to people, and how we go about interacting with people, because you really can't force anyone to take that step until they're ready.
no.
Um, and I
And
think
we
that
we
there needs,
yeah. So I was just think we were talking, weren't we, about how I mean, there's levels, aren't there, to this? So it's the implications. I suspect that collectively there is this suspicion. Of course, there is. It's woven into the fabric of everything. Here, there's always these questions. There's always these little markers. And I suspect that everyone's got that. Look, there wouldn't be such a pushback. There wouldn't be such a no, I can't live somewhere that's like that if there wasn't something to trigger. Because otherwise, you just go out, don't be daft, la la
yeah,
la, and carry on. So it's triggering something. But the thing is with this, once you start going down those rabbit holes and you're looking at, well, who are these people? Like, well, how long has this been going on? What is it they want? And on and on and on. What you're going to start unraveling here is so huge. It does all your preconceived notions about everything.
it does.
It is huge. It is huge. And so I think there's that knowing, oh God, I can't go there, I'm not. There's that suspicion that if you do start following that, and so it seems to be there are those of us who've got a stomach for this, God knows why, because we're all so different, we're from every single possible category, background, anything, we're all so different, but we seem to have the stomach for this, for having everything turned on its head. For the desire for truth is so strong that even if it's completely unpalatable to and it's only unpalatable to the ego that thinks it's this little creature that lives and dies, and that's it, and everything is just what you can see, touch, feel, hear. It's only that, but still, you know, it's we seem to have the appetite for it. It's like we're prepared. And this goes for everything. It's like I've said to you about, I had a conversation with someone very close to me, totally different setup, but it was about yeah, like spirituality really. I this was years ago. I'd been like fully on the Buddhist path, gone to India, had this huge kind of awakening, was meditating a lot, and I was just discussing, you know, how your perception completely changes, you know, when you start, yeah, it's investigating, I suppose, these things. And this person said you could see the cog sort of turning. He knew what I was talking about. There was this inkling, and
I had the same feeling with mine.
yeah, it's like this. But he actually came out with it and said, at my age, because he's a bit older, I just don't want to rock the boat. So he was
The
literally
other
saying,
strand to it as well.
I get what you're saying, but it's so momentous. It was too much for him, too much,
Mm.
because like we have this idea of spiritual awakening being this fluffy little, oh, wonderful. No,
It's not. It's fucking
my
brutal.
God, it is the most traumatizing
It
on the
is.
human level. You've got nothing, mate. Everything's
But
wrenched away, but you know, but obviously then everything is
I've got to say that actually is I mean it has, as I say, it has been fucking brutal. You know, I've gone through the most sort of the darkest periods ever, you know, in my life, and I've been through some really dark times in my life. But over, you know, 2020, 2021, it was horrendous. But actually it was genuinely, and I mean this hand on heart, the best thing that ever happened to me. Because
yeah.
actually the result, the fundamental bottom line for me was learning that actually um there's actually nothing wrong with me. Like actually it's the world is fucked.
Yeah.
And there's all this, you know, programming and indoctrination and lies and propaganda and all of this stuff that you know is occupying our thoughts and influencing the way we see ourselves, the way we see the world around us, the way we process it, and the way we deal with it. And actually, you know, I suffered with anxiety, like, you know, full blown panic attacks on an almost daily basis
Mm.
for a really long period of time. When I kind of came through the initial like of kind of really kind of figuring it all out and putting all the pieces together, it went. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, there are still moments where I get quite anxious, but not
Yeah.
in the way I used to before.
No.
The panic attacks and the, you know, it used to be among crowds. It used to
Mm.
be getting on public transport and being around, you know, loads and loads of people. And
Mm.
now, as most people know, you know, I'm once a
In the
month
middle
I
of the
go up to London.
protests.
You know,
Yeah.
March 2021, I came up to London in the middle of lockdown completely on my own, you know, and you, there's in the back of your mind, you know, there's a chance that they could literally arrest you for, you know, being not in your town
Well, we were
during a
like this,
lockdown.
weren't
And
we? All locked
I
together,
know,
like, watch it.
and not once did I have a panic attack.
No.
And there were thousands of people
Yeah.
there. You know, I was
Yeah.
doing the public, and honestly, so much of all the shit that had plagued me for most of my life, it
Mm.
just dissipated
Mm.
because there was this knowing that actually what's wrong
Yeah.
is out there, and it's
Mm.
not in here, it's not in here,
Mm.
it's out there.
Yeah.
And actually that it is within my power to free myself from all
Mm.
of that, to untangle all of the stuff the world's imprinted on me, and
Mm.
be able to kind of move forward in a much more healthy way with this sense of, you know, truth and knowing and freedom to
Mm.
kind of reject all of that stuff that is
Mm.
shit and say no, no, that's not what I'm here for.
It's like a
And then to be
baptism of
able to,
fire, really, for a
yeah,
lot of people, isn't it? And we've seen it at the stands, you know. We were initially meeting up and everyone's like rabbits caught in the headlights, like, oh my God, sort of clinging to each other. And then you saw, like, over the following months, these warriors emerging,
Yeah.
because of this incredible situation we found ourselves in. But actually, to get back to the question, so how do we cope? How are we able to still laugh, have fun, see the good in things? How? Knowing what we
It's such a
know.
good question. And you see, the thing was, this person I had the conversation with said to me, I need to believe that there is good. I need to believe in humanity. And I was like, but
We
you still
do.
can.
Yeah.
Like I still do,
And there
just
you go.
because there is an awareness that
Mm,
there is this, and tiny in the great scheme of things,
yeah.
there's a tiny group of people who have acquired the amount of power and control and money that it takes to,
Mm,
do all of this. There's very, very few of them,
mm,
really. And that actually, I still believe that 99% of the human beings on this planet are good, kind, decent, honest people who, you know, we've all been influenced and corrupted and messed about by this world, and
yeah.
we're all kind of, muddling our way through, but inherently we all care. And that might, manifest in different ways, that might present in different ways. We might do things very, very differently. But at the core of it, everybody cares. And I think even when you go back to all of the shit that happened in COVID, even those people that were advocating masks and lockdowns and vax passports and all of the things that we were pushing back against, we were both pushing for those, for either for or against,
Mm,
for the same reason,
mm,
because we cared. These
yeah.
people, the ordinary people, I'm not, we say this a
Yeah.
lot, it's not about
Mm,
talking about these paid puppets, the celebrities, the
mm,
politicians,
mm,
not those people, but the regular people who
mm,
picked up the baton of going, oh, we need to punish these people that are,
yeah.
flouting lockdown rules,
Yeah.
because they genuinely believed that we
Mm,
were a threat. And yes, they were wrong,
mm,
but the bottom line is it was because they cared and they didn't know any better. And we can argue to the cows come home whether, they should have seen what we saw, that,
mm,
they should have been
mm,
open to this, whatever.
mm,
The reason you can keep going is because, well, for me, I can still see that there is so much good in the world.
mm,
There is still so much to fight for. That
mm,
just because this handful of people think they rule the world, that actually, when enough of us actually come together and step
mm,
into our own power and acknowledge what's going on and just say, no, no, that actually we do have the power to take that from them, and that humanity is inherently good and it is worth
mm,
fighting for. And I think that's, for
mm,
me, the
mm.
bottom line of what keeps me going.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's a world view, isn't it? I mean, for me, this is a brief experience in infinity. So there's only so scared and worried I can get about, and it can get very, very intense because, when you're identified with this personality, body, being, albeit temporary, and you see it as you, but there's always that knowledge that this is just, it's a tiny little moment in the whole, and it's all about the frequency that we can change everything with how we're feeling, how we've talked about endlessly. This is all fear. This is all
Mm.
manifested through fear. And so through practice and experience, I know how my life changes when I'm not in a frequency of fear. I know what it's like to feel absolutely imperturbable, untouchable, and it wouldn't matter if someone came and shot me dead. In that moment, when you get in contact with that feeling of that's absolute power, because you are infinite. There's nothing that can ever destroy you. It puts a completely different slant on things for me. I could be totally engaged in this battle, absolutely, but it's my life, as in the biggest possible meaning of the word, doesn't depend on any of this. So you've got that sort of detachment. I see that with a lot of people. So when I said about, it's people that seem to have more of a spiritual, there's more. If you are totally focused on this is it, I feel very sorry for people who are trapped in that. What a horrible to literally think that this experience is it. And of course you're going to live in absolute fear and fight to the death to preserve it, but then you're going to die anyway. But that's a whole other thing, that can't look at that until it's upon you. So I think it's just a fundamental way of, well, it's a level of consciousness, isn't it? And that's not to say that, oh well, I'm so much more evolved, because my level of consciousness is pitiful compared to yogis in India, the Buddha, these people that truly have broken through and are genuinely liberated. I'm absolutely, if you want to measure it like that, I'm down here. But that's got nothing to do with me in that sense. I'm where I am. I can expand my consciousness as much as I'm able to. I can kind of contribute, but even that's kind of beyond me. Everything, you're just where you're at, aren't you? And so bringing it back to, you can't, you can lead a horse to water, and it is a gradual thing. Like you're saying, that conversation you had would never have happened a year ago. So there's that ability that is there, to go a bit further, but it's not going to necessarily be huge leaps
No, and
for
it's as I
people.
say, it's not something you can force, and it doesn't matter how much you shout and scream and inform and go bang on about
Yeah,
these things. If someone is not ready to accept that,
they
there is
can't.
nothing
No, there's
that is going to
nothing.
make them do that. And
No.
I really firmly believe that actually the best thing we can do is to very consciously and carefully and respectfully keep planting those seeds
Yeah.
to keep these issues within the public consciousness.
Mm.
Excuse me. To keep to keep going on about these issues, to not let them disappear,
No.
but to to be respectful of the fact that everybody is on their own path and their own journey, and they're where they're at, and actually where they go, where that leads them, is not within our control. All we can do is keep giving this information and wait until the time is right for that person, for
Mm.
them to step through that door,
Mm.
and to take it on board. And I do believe wholeheartedly that over the next few years we are going to have, I mean, we know all the things that are coming, and there are going to be crises after crises after crises. And I
Mm.
don't say that with a kind of negative view. It's we
Mm.
know that there are lots of things coming that are going to force people to acknowledge things that they didn't acknowledge before.
Mm.
And I do believe that they actually have to happen in order for
Yeah.
humanity,
Yeah.
enough of humanity,
Mm-hmm.
to get to this point.
Mm.
These external things, these triggers, do have to happen in the same way that COVID had to happen for me,
Yeah.
in order for me to really kind of pull back the curtain, rip
Mm.
it down, and just
Yeah.
go, okay, go on then.
Yeah.
everybody needs to reach that point, and everybody will have a different trigger, a different set of circumstances that will give them that, okay, I'm ready now. Like, okay, I need to know. I've got to know. So yeah, our responsibility is to just keep plodding along, but just be respectful
And
with it, you know.
keep your vibes up. Those of us in the know, we know how this works. It's our responsibility in a way to keep seeing through the fear and keep going, you know, because this is what keeps us going.
I
It's
think if we sit
seeing
there and
all
paint
the
a picture of a horrendous world that is truly
exactly,
fucked, who
yeah,
is going to want to step through that door? So actually,
exactly,
the point is, we
yeah.
have to imbue the knowledge that actually there is more than this, and
And we're creating
nothing
it.
is all lost. Yeah, exactly
Yeah,
that.
we
We
we've
can
got
create
to have,
something better.
yeah, and we are. You've got to have
We
the
are.
balance where, yeah, we're highlighting all of this stuff, but for what purpose? Because this is what we want. We don't want that. And pour your energy and focus into all this wonderful stuff, what life can be, what it is. Because, you know, in the midst of all of this, if you can still have gratitude and appreciation for all those little things, we talk about it all the time. That's what gets us through when we've been in our blackest moments, the pair of us clinging to each other like, oh my God. But we always remind each other, one moment at a time, focus on something that brings you joy. It could be tiny, and you build on it, and that brings up your vibration, your frequency, and that's what this is. And if there are enough of us consciously doing that, we're literally like anchoring the light, the good light, not the Luciferian light, the good light, you know. And there are many, many, many of us doing that. Then that's already shifting the energy. And so those people that are hesitant, they're going to be moved up without even realizing it. And then they're going to also, they won't have that fear then, because they know no matter how bad things seem, and you've got these terrible people in control, they know the other side, they're in contact with it because they're lifted up, and they're living that joy, they're seeing the love and feeling it. So we're about to run out of time. I know,
Oh.
we've goes quick, doesn't it? But yeah, so you just keep on keeping on, really. And yeah,
It's not an easy thing to dissect, especially in the
no,
space of sort of 40 minutes. And there's, you know, so many other things, you know, that we could discuss and whatever. But I think we got to the crux of the
I
matter.
hope so. We just have our musings over things, don't we?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so there we go. But yeah, well done if you've made it to the end. And yeah, we'll catch you. So I won't say next week for sure, because
Yeah.
we never know. Like, we just, as and when we can get together. Hopefully next week. But if not,
Yeah.
it will be sometime soon. So lots of love. Have a great
Big,
rest
big
of the
love to
week.
everybody.
Yeah, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye.